So this is fried Rokuchen, and you dip it in, it's really good peach jam here, and you eat it. This is why I come every year for this.
Hello everyone, it's your friendly Undercurrents host Ken Ogasawara here, recording this on the first day of May. And around these parts on the MCC calendar, we begin to look forward to the new Hamburg Mennonite Relief Sale, which is always on the last Friday and Saturday of May. This year, the new Hamburg Mennonite Relief Sale celebrates its 60th year. 60 years of coming together in community to raise money for the relief, development, and peace work of MCC, through the sale of everything from deep-fried goodies, homemade pies, or restored antique tractors. Over these 60 years, the new Hamburg Mennonite Relief Sale has raised over $15 million for MCC. That is a lot of French fries and T-balls. And the sale has evolved over the years with new attractions like the Voices Together community hymn sing on the Friday night that started a couple years ago. If you ever wanted to know what it felt like to be in a choir but didn't want to bother with the auditions or the commitment, just sit in the stands with 500 others and let their voices lift you. Today, I'll be resharing an episode I produced a couple years ago about one part of the relief sale that I haven't mentioned yet, the quilt auction. And in particular, the heart-pounding, dopamine-flooding thrill of one of the greatest quilt auction moments ever captured on film. Back in 2022, when this episode first came out, I wasn't doing video episodes yet, but I've gone back and added visuals over this whole episode with footage and photos from over the years. So I would highly recommend catching this on YouTube or Spotify. This one is definitely worth watching. And I won't forget to mention our friends at Kindred Credit Union, who are sponsors of not only Undercurrents, but also of the new Hamburg Mennonite Relief Sale, and have supported the sale for many years. Kindred is all about helping you make peace with your money through real human advice and by using money as a force for good in your community. Go to kindredcu.com to open an account today. So without further ado, enjoy episode 16, Bittersweet, A Quilt to Remember.
Well, we only actually moved here 3 years ago, so we've been coming every year since we moved here.
The Relief Sale is a festive and magical place where Mennonites wrestle joyfully between their naturally frugal disposition and the urge to indulge in the hedonistic pleasures of deep-fried treats and the extravagant beauty of handmade quilts. Every year, more than 24 relief sales across Turtle Island raise millions of dollars for MCC. The relief sale I'm most familiar with is the new Hamburg Mennonite Relief Sale, a stone's throw from my hometown. The atmosphere is like a county fair. Live music, bouncy castles and face painting, and tons of food. We're talking hearty fare like donuts, French fries, spring rolls. There are pies and tarts and watermelon. There are various meats on buns. All of these food vendors are in fact volunteers from churches across southern Ontario who put their own time, money, expertise, and equipment to full use to feed the hungry masses every year.
Probably my favorite part is the apple fritters, but I should probably say the donuts.
We're making them nice and crispy because that's what we like about our French fries.
I've got some pies and some pupusas and some pepperettes.
The ball, what's it called? The P-balls? The P-balls, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
But if there's one draw that might eclipse the delicious food, it's the quilts. Every year, thousands of gorgeous quilts are painstakingly designed, created, and donated to be sold at relief sales all across Canada and the US. They come in all shapes and sizes, from exquisite little crib quilts to billowing king-size bed covers. Every year at the New Hamburg sale, there is a feature quilt, a special piece that is, well, featured. They're always spectacular, top-notch in both artistry and craft. And there is one woman who has made a queen-sized impact on the landscape of the feature quilt over the past 2 decades. Her name is Renske Helmuth.
Last year, I gave one of my own, and my husband still just kind of, shouldn't have done that. You could have done another one. I like that one. Well, then you should have told me. And I have so many.
Renske created her first feature quilt for the New Hamburg sale in 1999, and since then has created 8 more feature quilts. Each of these unique quilts is a collaborative effort with dozens, sometimes up to 100 quilters joining in to create the individual panels that are brought together under Renske's direction and sharp eye. She's also won awards at international quilting competitions and traveled widely teaching the fine art of quilting. But when it comes to making a quilt for the relief sale, Renske isn't thinking about awards or personal artistry. There was only one goal in mind.
These quilts are made to make money for MCC. Right. That's the main goal. Right. And when you start something for yourself, you do it different. This one is made to sell, so you try and make something that people will like. Not you might not like it, but it's a different mindset.
Right. It's not for your own taste.
It's not for my taste.
Renske learned this lesson early on in her career with the relief sale.
Oh, yeah, I did 2 for the relief sale. It was the church, and they were not bad. The one was a Mariner compass, and that sold really well. And then I made the blue one, what I thought was really nice, and it didn't do well. And I was on my way home, and you know the song, "Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble"? That came in my mind. I thought, uh-oh.
Renske's defining gift as a quilter has been to come up with a unique idea and to inspire others to join her in its creation. She understands that it's not just about the design, it's the story behind the quilt that people are fascinated by. This is why for the 2015 feature quilt, she traveled all the way to East Africa to source materials for the quilt that came to be called Threads of Africa.
There was not much fabric in Kenya. We went to Tanzania, and in Arusha I went to the market and I bought a lot of fabric because you can't buy small pieces. You buy 6 meters of each, but you have to think that you have to take it home. So I only took and divvied it up between different people, and fabric is kind of heavy, so I had all this fabric. Then to come up with an idea, that took a while. And once I walk every day, so I walked, and then the idea came.
Her idea was to piece together a collage of images, inspired by what she had seen on her trip to East Africa. She took this general idea to the Waterloo County Quilters Guild, where Renske had been a member for over 20 years.
I told the guild members that I was making quilt for the relief sale if they were interested.
This group of quilters, along with those from her church, are Renske's regular collaborators on her relief sale quilts, and she is quick to point out that none of her quilts would have been possible without their help.
Well, 30-some people were interested, and they all came to our place for a Saturday, in different groups, and they could get ideas, look at books, get the fabric. They had to use fabric that I had. Then they went home, made the blocks, and then the big job was to put it all together.
Of the 200 or so quilts made every year for the New Hamburg Relief Sale, many sell for a couple $100. Some, like a feature quilt, might go for a few thousand. But occasionally, the stars align for the only kind of war that MCC condones: a bidding war. Quilt auction at the New Hamburg Mennonite Relief Sale is, as I've said, a big draw. The action takes place in a former hockey arena. At the auction's peak mid-morning, there are probably close to 1,000 people packed in there to watch the show. There's a stage set up near center ice. On this stage are a few clerks sitting at a table, keeping track of the quilts that have sold. There is a large rotating quilt display that the selling quilt is laid out on. Each quilt is carefully draped on this board and shown off by 2 Mennonite women in conservative dress and white gloves. These women are cold-blooded professionals. I've never seen them so much as crack a smile or raise an eyebrow, no matter how energized the bidding got. And last but not least, the master of ceremonies who presides over the whole show, the auctioneer.
a Mennonite myself. I think I was asked to be a part of it as a bid taker to begin with, and then as an auctioneer. But I believe I've been doing it there for 25 years or so.
This is Gary Yancey, professional auctioneer. As a boy growing up on a dairy farm, he would skip school to go to cattle auctions with his dad, enthralled by the speed and charisma of the auctioneers. After getting home from these auctions, young Gary would round up some cattle in the barn and auction them off to imaginary bidders. Gary was the one working the stage on Saturday, May 30th, 2015, when that year's feature quilt, Threads of Africa by Renske Helmuth and the Waterloo County Quilting Guild, came up for sale.
Will you tell me 7,000 here, 5,000 in a row? Hit 5,000 here, we need a pound of the bank, pound of 5,000 here.
How do you know what number to start at? Because you're not starting every quilt with the same price base.
No, that's a really good question. Typically, with this quilt auction, there is no real set price, and it just depends on the people wanting it. But this one in particular, I had an idea. It was a promotional quilt, I believe, and I had an idea it could go quite good.
Gary started the bidding off at $7,000, but wasn't getting any bites, so he dropped it down to $3,000, and that's where the bidding started.
3, now 4, now 5, 5,000 here, we need a pound, pound of a pound, 6,000 here, 6,000, 7,000, hit 7,000 here, we need a 6 here, now 7, now 8, 8,000, 9,000 here, 10,000 here, 10,000 here.
So we'll just pause it here. This is a moment where I thought this quilt would only go for 10,000. Okay. So I stopped and kind of talked a little bit about it, but this is in my head thinking maybe this is where it's going to end.
Calling out an auction when the bids are flying left and right is fun, but it's when the bidding stalls that an auctioneer really gets to work.
10,000 one more time, young lady. 10,000, unbelievable quilt. 10,000, 9,500, young lady, 9,500. Yes, 95, 10,000, now 5.
Then it got excited.
Right.
You hope to get a certain amount, right? And then,
So what was your hope for Threads of Africa? What were you thinking, the amount?
well, it would be nice to get 10,000.
10,000, okay.
That would be a really good.
Right.
And then you can always hope for more. But it's an auction. And I've been to enough auctions where things don't work out. And something that should go way higher didn't. And something that's not quite there goes sky high. You have two people that want it bad. That's all you need. You need two that are interested.
For many years, there were a few generous quilt enthusiasts who could be counted on to pay top dollar for quilts. One of these was the late Bruce Maneri, who passed away in 2016, just a year after this auction took place. He was the owner of Len's Mills Stores, a family-run fabric and textile business with locations all over southwestern Ontario. Bruce and his family had become generous supporters of the relief sale, and of the quilt auction in particular, buying dozens of quilts over the years, which are proudly displayed in their stores. But as strong as Bruce Maneri's support was, as Renske said, in an auction, it takes two to tango. So allow me to introduce to you
Emily Hansberger. I've been making quilts for the relief sale since 1995. I think I was looking back to some pictures I had taken, so I was counting them up. I think 35 quilts at least that I've donated.
I knew this was a generous donation of time, energy, and materials. But when I asked Emily how long it took to make a quilt,
This is the question you don't ask a quilter. How long did it take and how much did it cost? Because some people do keep track of hours, but that would be so depressing, because when do you start? When you're shopping for the fabric, when you're washing the fabric, ironing the fabric, cutting the fabric, it just takes a long time. People are there to get a really nice quilt for next to nothing, less than the fabric costs sometimes. And people will say, oh, well, think of the total and it's all going to a good cause and stuff, but you still spent a few months at least making that thing.
Emily was ready to put her money where her mouth was. She had worked with Renske on Threads of Africa and thought it was worthy of a good price, and she was ready to spend her own money to make that happen.
First I checked my bank account. to make sure I wouldn't like get caught at the desk and say, "Oh, well, maybe I'll call you on Monday," kind of thing, you know. So I knew, and I'm also involved in Grandmothers to Grandmothers, which is a Stephen Lewis Foundation group of women who are helping grandmothers in sub-Saharan Africa. So in the back of my mind, I thought, if I got the quilt, I would donate it to them. I don't know, just tried to play it cool until the time came.
At 10,005, what a quilt, young lady. What a quilt to buy to say that I bought that quilt. 10,5, young lady. 10,5. Don't lose it for 500. Wishing you would have went home and bought it.
It's at this point, after Gary has labored at $10,000, that Emily and Bruce go toe-to-toe.
10,5, 11,000, now 5, 11, now 5, 11, 5, 12. Let's give an auction now, 12, 13, entertain.
This is where I started thinking this is going to get exciting.
16, let's have an auction, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19,000, 20,000, now 22,000, 23, 24, 24, 25, 26, 27,000, 28,000, 29, 29,000, 30,000, now 31,000, unbelievable! 31 one more time, 31,000 here, and 30,001.
You can tell the bidding has slowed a little bit. It's getting into high numbers. So people or the two parties are now thinking, this is a lot of money, but it's all going to good cause. That's another thing in their heads, is it's going to, all the money is going to a good cause.
35,000, 35, 30, 36, 37, and 37, 38, 38,000 here, and 38, 39, 40,000 now, up to 40,000 here, 41, young lady, and 41, 42, and 42. How about 45, young lady, 45,000 here, 45, yes, 45, the bid here, 45, and 42, 43.
My adrenaline is just running.
At this point, he keeps looking at me. At this time, this was the purse I was carrying. I sort of went, you know, like,
Yeah, it's empty.
small purse. And Rensky was sitting down there going, what is Emily doing?
Most people have a number set in their mind of where they're going to stop. And it's somewhat my job to convince them to go over that number. I'm assuming they had a limit in their head of 35 or 36 or even less than that. And it just the momentum, it went way over what they were thinking they were going to spend. And I'm wondering if once it hit over 40, that was their limit.
I put this question to Emily.
Can I ask you, what in your head, what limit did you sort of roughly have?
About 42, yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Emily would need to bid $43,000 to beat Bruce Maneri's bid. But with the discipline and focus of an expert quilter, she kept her wits and stuck to her budget.
Just think about what you're buying here, and the money going to a good cause. 42, 43,000, young lady. 43. Take another breath, take another bid. 43,000. 42. 43,000 one more time. 43. We all done? 42, pretty. Is there anyone else? 43,000. Don't wave at me if you're unsure. 42. 43. One more time. 43,000. We all done? We all done here at 42, 43,000. One more chance. 43. 43,000. Last time, 42 and 43,000. They all done? All through? Sold. 43,000.
I would say out of my almost 30 years in this career, that would be one of my definitely highlights. And that's what part of it is an auction, is the buzz, the adrenaline running, the crowds cheering on. And it's an awesome feeling for both the buyer and for myself and for everyone else. Everybody knows this money is totally being donated. So it's a win-win everywhere.
Bruce Maneri ended up with the winning bid, buying Threads of Africa for $42,000. You would be excused for assuming that would be enough to put it in the top spot in the history of MCC Relief Sale quilt auctions. But you would be wrong. In 2002, a quilt called Kaleidoscope of Nations sold for $44,000. I'll give you one guess as to who made that quilt.
Well, it would be nice to get 10,000.
Renske is philosophical about the success of her quilts. She did not expect Kaleidoscope of Nations to sell for as much as it did, and she certainly didn't expect lightning to strike twice.
Oh, well, what now? And I said, well, it never happens again.
But I dare say it could happen again, because the 2022 feature quilt, being auctioned off on Saturday, May 28th, is once again by Renske Helmuth. And get this, it's her last one.
For now, I say, this is it. Yeah, okay, this is it. If there's another one, it will be a bonus. But it takes a lot of thinking. The thinking part is harder than the doing part.
This last quilt has some similarities to Threads of Africa. Renske went on another MCC learning tour to collect fabric, this time to Nepal. Renske sat on this fabric, perhaps literally, for nearly 3 years before inspiration struck. The end result is a gorgeous work of art with 16 panels depicting scenes of everyday life in Nepal. A woman with a bright smile carrying a basket on her head, a group of women hoeing in a field, a landscape with rice fields in the foreground and the majestic Himalayas in the background. Some of these images were inspired directly by photos that Renske herself had taken on her trip. The quilt is called Glimpses of Nepal. It's stunning and a fitting conclusion to Renske's remarkable legacy.
So you buy one thinking, yeah, I can have a slice, but this feels like it's maybe about a good solid 5 pounds of pie. That's nuts.
Picture this, a family patiently hand-making spring rolls in a church basement. Renske piecing together individual quilt panels made by dozens of quilters. Emily with her heart racing, bidding for a prized quilt. A family in Ukraine receiving an MCC relief kit. What do all of these things have in common? These scenes all contribute to something greater than the sum of its parts. Perhaps this year, wherever you are, one small part that you can do is to visit a relief sale near you. I've put a link to all the relief sales across Canada and the US in the show notes. And if you live in Ontario, do as Emily did. Mark the date on your calendar, check your bank account, and get ready to bid. I'd like to thank Renske Helmuth, Emily Hunsberger, Gary Yancey, and the thousands of volunteers across Canada and the US for your service at relief sales over the years. A special debt of gratitude to the quilters. Thank you for every stitch, every hour, and every ounce of love you've poured into your art. Your contributions are priceless. Huge thank you to Kindred Credit Union for sponsoring Undercurrents and the new Hamburg Mennonite Relief Sale. Also a big thank you to Lens Mills Stores, who have continued their tradition of supporting the relief sale by sponsoring this year's quilt auction. Thanks to producer Kristen Kong for her invaluable support in putting this episode together. This episode was mixed by Francois Goudreau, theme music by Brian McMillan, and artwork by Jesse Bergen. And of course, thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode coming out in June. My name is Ken Ogasawara. Have a great rest of your day.